Afshen Ihlikane Ruperil, and welcome to the third episode of 9Cubed series. In this episode, I had an opportunity to chat to Professor Alison Lewis, who is the current Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment at the University of Cape Town. I hope you enjoyed this chat as much as I did. So let's go check it out. I think first of all, thank you so much for making time to have this chat with me. I am personally inspired by your excellence and very proud to be part of EBE, which you are the Dean of. Just to start off, if you can just share with us who Professor Alison Lewis is, just a brief background of yourself, please.
You said from primary school, if possible.
Yes.
So I was born in the UK, in London. My parents are actually both South African, from Kimberley, but my father was working in London doing his articles for chartered accountancy. So I was born there, and then we moved to Zambia, where my brother was born, and then back to South Africa, to Natal. And I went to a convent school in Natal. So I was taught by nuns, the full version of nuns, from primary school in a Catholic convent. And then I went to an Anglican school for high school in Johannesburg.
In your post-matric schooling, if I'm not mistaken, you got all your degrees at UCT.
Yeah. I came to UCT for my undergrad degree, and in my very first year, I got involved in student politics. And so this actually became my main reason for living. And so I stayed at UCT. I worked for South African nylon spinners after I got my master's degree for 2 years. And then I came back to UCT and did a PhD in civil engineering.
Oh, actually, in civil engineering?
So what happened was, I wanted to do a PhD. I went to WITS, and they offered me a very nice PhD modeling the transmission of fires in mines. And then I came to UCT, and there was an old professor at UCT called Professor Gerrit Marais, who was an expert in wastewater treatment. And one of the courses I did when I was a master's student was called low-cost sanitation. And when I did the course, I didn't hold out much hope for the course, but I think it was the best course I did at UCT. And it was given by this old Professor Gerrit Marais, who was a fitter and turner, and he had developed this expertise in wastewater treatment and was passionate about water and sanitation. And I came to visit him, and he said, "I'm sorry, but there's no ways you can do your PhD at WITS. You have to come and do it here at UCT in wastewater treatment in civil engineering." So I did it, and my co-supervisor was Professor Dyer Reddy in applied mathematics, because it was a mathematical modeling PhD.
Oh, interesting. So you are one of those we would call UCT cubed. Your undergrad.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard this term from people who have gone to MIT and Harvard and have done all their degrees. They'll either call themselves MIT squared or MIT cubed. I know you spoke a bit about it in one of your TEDx talk I've watched online. But briefly, do you remember how did you come to decide to be in the STEM field?
In chemical engineering?
Yes.
I loved maths at school. I had a very nice maths teacher. I did not enjoy science. We actually didn't have a science teacher. Our science teacher resigned or retired, and then we didn't have a proper science teacher after that. We had a temporary person, then we didn't have somebody. So myself and another girl from my school, the only two of us who needed science to get into university, went off to go and do what was then called William Smith's Argus School, Nowadays, you'd call that master maths or master science. So we went off and did science, most of it out of school. I also loved English, and I won a prize when I was in Matric for the best English essay in the JMB Matric exams.
Oh.
So I was very keen on English, yeah. And so the careers person said, well, you can, you must choose. You can do whatever you want, really. And I was quite keen on something to do with English or journalism or literature or writing. And then I heard somebody said to me that the two most difficult degrees at university are chemical engineering and actuarial science. And chemical engineering is not for girls. And so I'm afraid that was a very childish reason that I decided to do chemical engineering.
And as the dean of EBE, what does your job entail in summary? I know part of it could be you giving me my PhD degree. But in summary, what does your job entail as the dean of engineering and built environment faculty?
Yeah, so it's actually quite difficult to know what my job does. I seem to be very busy, but actually at the end of the day, I don't know what I do. On the job description, it says strategic and strategic leadership of the faculty, and that translates into, I suppose, steering and guiding the direction of the faculty, very much in consultation with the heads of departments and the faculty itself. And I think the initiatives that I've started mostly are not my own ideas. They're mostly, it's more like I listen to ideas that bubble from all various places, and I'm very happy to just support great initiatives and interesting ideas. So I suppose the overall thing would be to create an enabling environment for teaching and research. So making sure that our teaching is excellent, making sure that we have enough staff and good staff and excellent staff. So I focused a lot on getting extra funding so we can have extra staff. And then research as well, like supporting people in their research aspirations. So I'm kind of an enabler and a facilitator more than a doer.
I've also watched some of your talks on YouTube where you were talking about your research. Mostly, I think you're trying to help us look at waste in a different way. So I would like you to tell us a bit about your research, which you've been involved in or that you are interested in, and perhaps highlight its importance, especially for the African continent.
So my research is a source of great enjoyment to me. I find it very stimulating and interesting, and mostly because I like working on new and exciting projects, and I love working with students. So it's a really nice part of my job. And this whole idea of wastewater as a resource is actually quite a big thinking shift. So when I trained as a chemical engineer, you got reagents, you put them in the front end of the plant, you made the product, and then the effluent you just like pumped out the back somewhere and somebody else dealt with it. Whereas nowadays there's much more of a consciousness around full systems thinking around plant design or around energy or around, cradle to grave, the full picture. And one of those is seeing wastewater as a potential source of water as well as a potential source of resources. And that's been a big focus in my research.
I know, right? Don't worry. There is part 2, of which I'm going to post the link on the video description below. Please make sure you catch part 2 of the interview with Professor Alison Lewis. Thank you for watching part 1. Please consider subscribing if you haven't and forwarding the link to anyone you think would benefit by watching.